in time to attend and help my mother with my birth. They said I was a lovely baby. Of course, all mothers think their kids are the best. The living conditions were primitive in those days. When you drive through the country, you see many of the old farmhouses still standing. There was no electricity, no indoor plumbing, no refrigeration. Farms all had small outhouses, and I can tell you that on a cold winter day, no one lingered long. The water was pumped from a well out in the yard and carried in the house for drinking and washing. On cold days in the winter, we had running water. We would take the water bucket out to the well, fill it with water, and run like the devil to the house. My brother and I started school at the same time. He was 7 years old and I was 6. We started off in the first grade. Our first book was called The Little Red Hen. There was no kindergarten in those days. The country schools were small and the teacher had all 8 grades. We lived about 2 miles from school and we rode horseback. I came from a large family, 4 brothers and 3 sisters. We lived on a dairy farm. By the time you became 10 years old, your duties were numerous. The girls helped with the housework, the boys worked in the fields and barns. We learned to drive horses and tractors. A typical day on the farm consists of arise about 5 a.m., help milk cows, help feed cows, horses, chickens, and pigs. Go in the house and have breakfast, wash and change clothes for school. Hitch horse to a sleigh or a wagon, depending on the time of year. We drove a horse 2.5 miles to the one-room country school. We kept the horse in a farmer's barn near the school. When school was dismissed, we hitched our horse and drove home, helped feed the animals, had supper, did our homework by kerosene lamplight, and went to bed. No television. During winter vacation, we helped cut wood so it would dry and we would have dry wood to burn the following winter. We had 2 wood-burning stoves, one to cook with and another to heat the house. We did not have to heat the barn. The heat from the animals kept the barn warm, even on the coldest winter days, sometimes 45 degrees below zero. The weather in northern New York State near the Canadian border was often 20 degrees below zero, and sometimes colder. I can remember one winter it went down to 48 degrees below zero. During the summer vacation, my father bought us boys a new straw hat, 50 cents. New sneakers, $1. We were very busy in the summer, planting crops, harvesting hay and grain to store in the barn to feed the animals the following winter. We also had a large garden, raised our own food for the next year. My sisters helped my brother to can fruits and vegetables, about 400 quarts. We planted about 1 acre of potatoes. All of the above was stored in the cellar. There was no furnace in the cellar, so it kept cool in the summer and above freezing in the winter. One of our winter jobs was to store ice. When the ice became thick in the river, about 12 inches or more, we took saws and cut out large blocks, about 2 foot square, loaded them on sleds and used the horses to pull the loaded sled to the ice house. The ice was then covered with sawdust and it would stay frozen all summer. We used the ice to help cool the milk. We also had an ice box to help keep the food cold in the house. we had to chop chunks of ice off the large blocks to use in the icebox. We also used the ice to make homemade ice cream. In those days, we did not worry about the fat content. My mother would make a custard with real cream and lots of eggs. On the farm, we had lots of milk, cream, and eggs. The ice cream was rich and delicious. I was about 12 years old when we had the 1929 Depression. I started high school the following year. Many people went hungry. On the farm, we had plenty to eat because we had a large garden, raised our own beef, pork, chicken, and milk and eggs. There was little money around. You could buy a candy bar for 5 cents, though we seldom had the 5 cents. On a dairy farm, our main income was from the sale of milk. We were receiving about 2 cents per quart. Most of the milk was produced in the spring and fall. Later on, after the Depression, the price of milk was much better, about 5 or 6 cents a quart. In the winter, the cows dried up and produced no milk until they had their baby calves. In the spring, we had about 40 cows, so therefore we had 40 baby calves. We kept about 10 of the best ones and sold the rest. The ones we kept were raised to cows to replace the older cow that had about quit producing milk. The calves nursed their mothers until they were about 3 weeks old. Then they were taught to drink from a bucket. To teach a calf to drink from a bucket, you put milk in the bucket, dip 3 fingers in the milk. As the calf sucked on your fingers, you lowered the calf's head into the milk and it sucked milk into its mouth. You then removed your fingers and the calf would continue to drink. Sometimes this had to be done for several feedings before the calf would drink on its own. I have not mentioned childhood diseases. All families had the usual measles, chickenpox, scarlet fever, and the dreaded diphtheria and polio. During the summer months, everyone was terribly worried about getting polio. It was a great relief when Dr. Salk invented a vaccine. If anyone in the family had any of the above diseases, the Board of Health would nail a large sign on the house indicating which disease, and visitors would see the sign and go away. I could write a book on my childhood experiences. Later on, I might write more in greater detail. I graduated from high school in 1934 and from the Agricultural College at Cornell University with a degree in animal husbandry. Hope you will enjoy this brief summary of my early life. Love, Grandpa.